Could Ryan Shea be the Mario Ferraro replacement for half the cost?
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is JD Young, and on today's episode of Locked On Sharks, we're going to be looking at two potential defensive free agent signings for the San Jose Sharks. We'll be discussing Nick Blankenburg, who's a small defenseman, who might be ready for a bigger role and could be this year's analytical darling. But first, we're going to start with Ryan Shea of the Pittsburgh Penguins and discuss why he could be the Mario Ferraro replacement for the Sharks if Ferraro does indeed head to free agency and signs the big-time contract that we're expecting. So with both these players, what we're going to do is kind of look through their hockey journey, kind of see how they got to the NHL. We'll discuss, dig into the numbers, dig into their analytics, and discuss what they do well, what they need some improvement on, and kind of look at their potential contracts and where they would fit with the San Jose Sharks. So let's get started with Ryan Shea, who I think is a player that the Sharks should be interested in. So Ryan Shea of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So he's 29, 6'2", about 200 pounds, left-handed shot. Just turned 29 in February. Doesn't turn 30 again until near the end of next season. Former fourth-round pick of the Chicago Blackhawks back in the 2015 draft. So he came up through the Boston area. So highlight, circle, red flag, whatever you need to do there. And went to played in the USHL with the Youngstown Phantoms before heading over to Northeastern, where he played with the we played with Northeastern from the 2016 through the 2020 season. Right before he was done when COVID shut things down. Last two seasons wore an A and then finally was the captain of the team. Had a really nice season in the 2019-2020 season where he played 34 games, 5 goals, 26 assists, 31 points as a senior. Weirds, of course, 2020, 2021, played in the AHL with Texas, where he had 27 games there. Spent a couple seasons with the Texas Stars, where he played a fair amount of games, 66, 70 games in the AHL, before 23-24, where he made his NHL debut with the Pittsburgh Penguins, played 31 games that season, split his time between the NHL and the AHL, played 23 games in the AHL. And then last year became a full-time NHL player. He had 39 games last year, but this year really kind of broke out. So definitely a late bloomer here. 80 games this year with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, a guy who's kind of had to work his way up, especially as a fourth-round pick. Definitely, had to work his way up. And really quickly, so he was not signed by the Pittsburgh Penguins or by the Chicago Blackhawks, signed by the Dallas Stars out of college. That's how he kind of got to Dallas, and from Dallas to the Penguins, and so on and so forth there. So, but he is a player who, kind of reading the tea leaves right now, looks like the Penguins might be looking to go in a different direction with him. I know they have a ton of cap space, but they, from just reading from the end of the season availability and stuff, and it kind of does sound like Shea will probably make it to free agency. So let's get to know him a little bit more. So this season played 80 games, like I said, 6 goals, 29 assists with 72 shots on goal, playing 18.53 a night. Corsi for. So when he was on the ice, the Penguins took 49.11% of the shot attempts. Goals for at 5-on-5, 58.33. So when at 5-on-5, they gave up a slight disadvantage when it came to shot attempts, but a major advantage when it came to goals for at 5-on-5. Looking at his evolving hockey card, 93 percentile player playing second pairing minutes, 91st percentile offensively, 63rd percentile defensively. His goals above replacement is extremely high. Expected goals above replacement are is very good as well. And right, not the kind of first guy you think of when it comes to offense from the on the blue line from the Pittsburgh Penguins, right? Especially with Erik Karlsson and Chris Letang. Ryan Shea, not the first guy you think of. So his defensively, his goals per replacement, expected goals per replacement, both solid. You maybe like to see a little bit higher there. Power play, didn't really get a chance to play on the power play much, as you would kind of expect, but was excellent on the PK for them, playing first pairing minutes. Was extremely good in that category. So would be a massive addition to the Sharks on the penalty kill. Looking at his hockey stat card from Advanced Hockey Stats, 55 percentile WAR. So that's wins above replacement. A lot of it's driven by his offense, which really took a big spike this year. The defense has seen slight improvements. Even strength defense has seen slight improvements, but the PK has been great. Finishing has been good as well. Does a great job with the kind of creating offense for us from the assists. Competition, doesn't play the toughest competitions, kind of in the middle of the pack there at 41%, but typically has not had good teammates, 25 percentile there. So one of those guys who's kind of having to carry the load, maybe against lower competition, but still has been having to kind of carry the load, but still producing good numbers here. Looking at his usage chart, not getting the big time offensive starts as you would expect, again, with guys like Karlsson and Letang. Not kind of facing the toughest quality of competition, but has been a kind of a nice two-way defenseman for the Penguins during his time this season. Looking at his all three zones card here, really kind of all over the place here. Not the offense is a little bit everywhere. Like he does some things really well, like kind of creating his kind of a chances per 60, like the assist right there, or kind of creating assists for other players. Does a good job with kind of the one-timers as well. So guy who can shoot it from the, he's going to crush it from the blue, from the point, and then create some havoc in front of the net for some other people to score. Not the guy you probably want for carrying the puck and creating zone entries, which is okay, but does a good job with the defensive zone retrievals, which is something the Sharks desperately need, is that guy who can get the puck and kind of get it going the other way out of their own zone. And that's something that he does excel at. So, as for his, we'll get to that here in a second. So this is a player who kind of does do a lot of the Mario Ferraro type of things here of getting the puck out of the zone. He's an excellent PKer. The offense is kind of surprising. And again, if you look at Mario Ferraro's analytics, like the offensive numbers are kind of surprising for a guy like Mario Ferraro, but for a guy like Ryan Shea, hasn't had to play the big time minutes, and that's going to be kind of the big thing as you try to look for a potential Mario Ferraro replacement is can you find a guy who can play 20 minutes, 21 minutes a night and hold his own? And we saw Ferraro's minutes kind of take a little bit of a dip this year, especially with Orlov out there, but right, we kind of know what Mario Ferraro does, right? He plays hard, he blocks shots, he's he plays on the PK. That's what you're potentially looking for, especially with a guy like Ryan Shea, is to kind of come in and fill that potential role there. So we're going to look at how much it's going to cost you, and we're going to kind of discuss the pros and cons of Ryan Shea as a potential Mario Ferraro replacement. So we'll get to that in just 1 second. The hunt for the Stanley Cup is on, and now you can trade every game on Kalshi. On Kalshi, you can trade every single playoff game, every series, the conference finals, and the championship. Right now, if you think that the Buffalo Sabres are going to win Game 7 and move on to the Eastern Conference Finals, they are trading at a probability of 53% to beat the Canadiens meaning a $100 payout pays $189 if they win that game. As the playoffs heat up, those numbers move in real time, so you can buy in and out at any time. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probabilities change, you can buy in and out of your position for a limited time. Download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi. That's KALSHI. Trade on anything. Missed calls, slow follow-ups are silent killers for businesses. That's how money gets left on the table without people ever realizing it. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled QUO, the business communication system built so you never miss a call. Quo helps businesses keep every conversation organized by letting your entire team manage calls and texts from one shared number. No more drop messages, missed calls, missed opportunities, or disconnected communications. It's designed for how modern businesses actually operate. Great thing about it, everything lives in one clean thread. Calls, texts, voicemails. The whole team can see the conversation, so nothing falls through the cracks. And AI summarization saves serious time by logging calls and highlighting the next steps automatically. Just makes your business feel more organized and responsive. Money's on the line. Always say hello with Quo. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedon. That's QUO.com/lockedon. All right, Drew, of course, I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. If you haven't checked out the Everydayer Club, perfect time to do so. One, you get ad-free episodes of Locked On Sharks audio versions. Two, you get to check out our Discord channel where you get to talk all things Sharks with a lovely group of listeners. Right now, we're all pretty jazzed about the new women's hockey team that is coming to San Jose. Expectation that we know more on Tuesday. So if you wanted to check it out, head over to lockedonsharks.supercast or click the link in the show notes. All right. Here we go. What does he potentially get? So our good friends over at Evolving Hockey have him projected to sign a 3-year deal at $3.9 million, 33% likelihood, or a 27% likelihood they signs a 4-year deal at $4 million. So you're getting a guy who's, yes, bit of a late bloomer, but doesn't have a ton of NHL tread. Like he hasn't played a ton of NHL games. So guy who's, I think, still kind of getting into his own right now on what he is going to be going forward. So that's, and at a price at, again, 3 years at $3.9 million, we'll just say $4 million just to kind of round, like, that's kind of the going price for that kind of middle pairing defenseman there. And especially when you think about, again, Mario Ferraro, who's projected to sign like a 6-year by $6 million contract, a little bit younger, right? 27. Ryan Shea's 29. So it's not, a couple years younger there, but this could be a guy who could kind of do a lot of the same Mario Ferraro things and cost you half as much, or close to half as much, right? 3 years at $4 million, and Mario Ferraro is going to be potentially getting 6 years at $6 million. That's a big difference when it comes to cost. So the pluses is, I guess the pros would be that you're getting a guy who I think can kind of do most, if not everything, that Mario Ferraro can do at a much cheaper price. The big questions are is he hasn't really done it for long, right? This was kind of the 1 year where he really did it for a Pittsburgh Penguins team that we all thought was going to be really bad, right? Made it to the playoffs, was a huge success this season. And this is a player, right, where you're kind of banking on a 1 year, like this was the kind of glow up year from him. You're kind of banking on a guy who's been playing, 18, 19 minutes a night. Now, can you play 20, 21 minutes a night and kind of do the same things on a new team? going forward. So if you can get him at that 3x4, I think it's something that you would definitely want to potentially do, especially as you look for a puck moving defenseman, and then you look for guys who can get the puck out of their own zone. I think Shea fits in that second category of being stiffer in their own zone, and I think that is a player who the Sharks could potentially target here. So a player who is much different side of the scale of a puck moving kind of offensive, smaller player, but kind of more that puck moving style of player is Nick Blankenburg. Blankenburg's a really kind of interesting player because, undrafted guy, came up from Michigan, playing in Michigan, AJHL route, went to University of Michigan, where he played 4 seasons at the University of Michigan, 2018 through the 2020 season. Of course, there's the having to deal with COVID for a year as well, kind of screwed things up there. But same thing, kind of wore an A in the 2020 to 21 season, and then wore the C in his 21 to 22 season, where in 38 games, 14 goals, 15 assists, 29 total points with the Michigan team. Signed with the Blue Jackets right out of college there, burned his first year of his ELC, where he played maybe not as much NHL games as you would expect. That second year, he played 36 games and was pretty productive in that time with 14 points. The 23-24 season, kind of the split his time between the Monsters and the Jackets during that time as well. Then headed over to Nashville in the 24-25 season, where played majority of the time with the Preds, but also got some AHL time. This year, split his time between the Preds and the Avs, where he got traded to the Avs at the trade deadline. 49 games 49 games, 6 goals, 15 assists, 21 points with the Preds, 12 games, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 total points with the Avalanche, and then has played in the 4 games so far in the playoffs with them as well. So looking at his time, kind of be split between the two, like I said. So he's gotten, 61 games, 8 total goals, 16 assists during that time, with 72 shots on goal, playing 16:48 a night. So that is going to be something we'll talk about here in a minute. But when he's on the ice, the teams that he's played, both the Avs and the Preds, 53.48% Corsi for. So they definitely control the puck possession, right? A good chunk of this time has been with the Preds. They're more heavily weighted towards the Preds with that. Goals for 44.12%. So they're controlling puck possession, maybe not scoring as much. The 5'9", 177-pound right-handed defenseman, which is the reason why he went undrafted, because he's 5'9". That is going to be something he's going to have to kind of continue to overcome. And of course, we'll talk about that here a little bit more. Playing third pairing minutes, 81 percentile player, 69th percentile offensively, 68th percentile defensively. Expected goals above replacement have been extremely good. The goals above replacement, it feels like there's actually a lot more meat on the bone there for him. He has played on, does solid job defensively. He has gotten some power play time as well. And he's gotten a good chunk of PK time as well. And he's been successful, we'll say, in both those departments. So nothing kind of like outstanding or anything like that, but he has been successful in both of those endeavors. So we're going to talk about a little bit more about Blankenburg and kind of get to know him a little bit more here in just 1 second. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing in the one position you have to fill, still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. It's not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a great stat that says it all. In the minute I'm talking to you about Indeed, companies like yours will have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes, less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just head over to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right. Let's get to know Mr. Blankenburg a little bit more here. So looking at his WAR card over the past 3 seasons, 82nd, 82 percentile WAR is over the past 2 years, 76 percentile offensively, 72 percentile defensively. Again, doesn't get much power play time. Has been solid on the PK. Is good with the finishing. Like he's a guy who kind of scores more than you would expect there. Doesn't play tough competition, right? 15 percentile competition, and hasn't had the greatest teammates as well. Can play on both sides, but again, right-handed shot, and the Sharks need more right-handed shot guys in the system here. So looking at what Blankenburg does really well, he is pretty solid at the zone entries. Like he will do that pretty well. Like his offense, he's pretty good at generating offense as well during, and then his offensive, like he can kind of create offense in a bunch of different ways. Defensively with the defensive zone retrievals, he does a pretty good job with that as well. And he's pretty solid, to be honest, with his zone defense. So kind of the thing that he struggles with the most is kind of just his retrievals per 60. He doesn't get the opportunity as much as you would potentially expect for a guy like him. But when he does, he is kind of successful with him. So looking at his usage chart, he, like, again, for a team that has Makar and Tays and stuff like that, not getting the quality of offensive opportunities, but also and not getting a lot of offensive starts and facing lower competition. So I think the pros here, the big questions for him are going to be what happens when you potentially ramp up those minutes, right? Going from 15, 16, 16, 17 minutes, again, up to maybe potentially 19, 20 minutes a night. Can you still be as successful? You also have to take the size into account, right? 5'9". You're expecting to have Luca Cagnoni in the NHL next year. And right, what's the Dan Boyle saying? You can hide one small defenseman, you can't hide two. And Blankenburg has been successful, right? And it's not like the Avs are like made up of a bunch of like massive, huge defensemen. I know Brent Burns is a big guy, but like the rest of them, they're not like these towers. It's not like Vegas, right, where it's a bunch of like 6'3", 6'4" guys. Like their defensemen typically a little bit smaller, but again, he's been playing in a more sheltered third pairing role for them. So you do wonder, like, and looking at the contract, he's expected to sign like a 1-year deal at like $1.5 million. And for a team like Colorado, who is going to be very tight to the cap, they're going to be trying to save their pennies in every way possible spot. So maybe the 1.5 isn't bad for them, but maybe they just try to find a guy who can, again, kind of replicate what Blankenburg does at the vet min type of thing. So for the Sharks, I think the big question is, do you want to invest in a guy who is a little bit older, right? For Blankenburg, he's 28, just turned 28, so doesn't turn 29 till after next season. When you kind of have a lot of the same type of guys already in the system, when you look at guys like Polkamp or Luca Cagnoni, or it kind of feels like I'd rather just take a swing on some of those. And I don't know if Blankenburg kind of fills any roles, especially when you're looking for a power play quarterback, puck moving defenseman who can play those 22 minutes a night. I just don't know if that's what he does. And we've seen these analytical darling type of players who, they everyone loves what they do, and then they go and they get a bigger role somewhere else, and it just doesn't quite work out for them. And like specifically, I'm thinking of Nick Blankenburg, who was kind of the analytics darling coming out of the Tampa Bay Lightning, went to Nashville, of course, of all places, and just didn't really have the season that you would expect there. And maybe, again, I think with a guy like Blankenburg, he's in a really great spot right now with the Avalanche, where, again, he's never going to have to be the guy. Not that he'd have to be the guy with the Sharks, but you would, if you're kind of dedicating a roster spot for a guy like that, I want someone who I think you're going to have a little bit more of a sure thing when you potentially sign him. So I get it. Total analytical darling. I totally get it. But you're also like, I think I would pass. Even at the low price, I think I would pass. It's hard to me to kind of envision what his role would be, and if he can kind of make the type of jump that you're looking for, kind of going forward. So that's a couple more free agents. We'll continue to look at some of these. We'll also kind of shift our focus at some potential second line wingers, especially if the Sharks feel like Quentin Musty's not available, or like we'll look at the second line's winger spot here. We'll start kind of focusing on some players there. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts, and of course you can watch on YouTube as well. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to talk Will Smith contract, which is going to be a ton of fun because that is going to be a very interesting contract for the San Jose Sharks and for Will Smith. So we'll talk about that. We'll have another draft profile coming up this week with an old friend of ours. Plenty of great stuff, so make sure you follow it along. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until tomorrow. Bye, friends.